Welcome back to another video, guys. Today is a continuation on part 7, the trans and motor build for my D8 Integra. If you haven't seen some previous parts, I suggest you go do that. But anyway, here we go. So last video I built the trans, or rebuilt the trans actually, and I also put in the crank. This video I'm going to put the rods and pistons in and pretty much finish the mechanical part of this motor, so I won't have like the intake manifold and everything on because I still haven't figured out exactly what I'm doing with that yet. But it will be like, if I wanted to put it in the car I could, if you know what I mean. But yeah, right now I'm just cleaning off the rods and pistons. They are used. These are the ones that I got out of this motor. I checked everything looks pretty good. Yeah, so I'm pretty much replacing the bearings, so I know exactly what bearings are in it. I'm gonna plastic gauge and make sure all the oil clearances are pretty good, and that's gonna be pretty much it. Anyway, to get back to what you're seeing, I just finished putting the bearings in, and now I'm gonna go ahead and clamp down the piston rings and get them in the actual block. This part can take some time. When I first started, I kind of got caught up on it a little bit. A little trick is to hit down the sides of your piston ring tool so it gets fully seated, and you got to make sure it's as tight as it goes. After that's done, I started on the whole plastic gauge process, which pretty much all you do is you take the little pieces of plastic and you set it on the crank. Here I rotated it so I could do all four at the same time. Probably not the smartest move, but I was trying to get it done relatively quick, and I'm super confident with the King's racing bearings. I've never had clearance issues before. I'm kind of just plastic gauging out of good habit, just for when I end up using other bearings. I already am used to doing it with everything, so it's not going to be a huge deal. But yeah, as you can see, you pretty much just put it all together, torque it all down to the correct specs, and then you undo it, take a little piece of paper and line it up to the actual squished plastic and see what it says on the actual scale that they have. And for a Honda, the top two are good. I think it's 0.025 millimeters is tight, and 0.038 millimeters is on the looser side, but nevertheless still okay. But don't quote me on those numbers. I am just going off the top of my head. I don't really remember 100% what it is. It's close to that, that's all I know. Anyway, all of that checked out, so you just saw me clean it off. Now I'm putting assembly lube for the final torque sequence so I can put it together fully this time, so I don't have to take it apart again. The assembly lube I use is from AutoZone. It's Lucas brand. I've used other assembly lubes. They're pretty much the same. A motor with assembly lube is way better than without it, you know. So yeah, just use it. Anyway, I'm pretty much done putting the rods and pistons in. You can see I'm torquing down the last two as we speak. And yeah. Now I could go ahead and put on the windage tray, as well as the oil pump, the oil pickup tube, and the rear main. As I'm doing all that, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, myself. Currently, nobody's sponsoring me, so if you'd like to sponsor me, that'd be great. Or if you know somebody that would like to just give me some money or some parts, you know, something to help the pain in posting videos, if you will. Also, the editing kind of sucks. I'm pretty terrible at it. I'm trying to do better, but yeah, I just like to thank that sick sponsor that's not there for this video. It's actually not painful. I kind of like doing this, but okay, so I did a little bit more off camera. You can see I put this new rear main in, and then I bolted the oil pan down, but that's pretty much it. We go ahead and put like the alternator brackets and some of the other brackets, as well as the sandwich plate for LSV Tech, and obviously oiling for my turbo. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put the timing components on. I also still have to take the head apart and lap the valves, put new valve seals in, stuff like that. I haven't decided if I'm gonna go get it cut down or decked, but yeah, I'll come back and record some more. First thing I'm going to get started with on the head is pulling the rails and the cam caps off, and then I'm going to go ahead and take out the plugs as well as the VTEC solenoid so I can remove the rocker rails so I can get down to the actual springs and retainers, because I'm going to change the valve seals on this. If I had enough money, I would replace springs and retainers, but I am running low on funds, just like everybody else, I guess. But yeah, I'm going to end up using the stock ones. I've only had a few issues with the stock ones, but it was really just me pushing the limits. As you're seeing here, this little dowel pin was giving me a little bit of trouble. I kind of got stuck on that for a second, but I managed to get it out. No big deal. Also, these rocker rails were unusually hard to get out as well. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. But as you're seeing here, I used an extension and a mallet on the other end and just hammered them through. I had a really long extension because one of them was just not wanting to move, I guess. I think there's something weird with the actual head, not the rocker arms, because they moved just fine. But yeah, it's super weird stuff. After that, I'm going to go ahead and lay everything out on the table so I know exactly where it goes. Then I'm going to go ahead and take a 21mm socket and my hammer. There is a rag under it. I did put a second one just for some extra cushion. But pretty much all you do is you hit the spring, and it's like a quick and easy way to get the springs and retainers out. Putting them in, there's not really a good trick. I have a tool made just for a VTEC head. But yeah. I got all the springs, retainers, and valves out, so now it is time to lap the valves. Woo! My least favorite part of everything. The more I do it, the more I don't like doing it. With used valves, you have to pretty much sand the top or wire wheel the top just so you can get the suction cup to stick. And even then, you could see me struggling. It's just a huge pain. I don't know. I don't like lapping valves very much. But it's a necessary process to ensure your valves are sealing good, so gotta do it anyway. But you could see here, it does take a while. I only recorded the first valve I did, because it probably took around an hour. But yeah. Another thing too, when you're lapping valves, you gotta make sure you get all the valve lapping compound out. It could mess up a lot of things, so just make sure you clean it out pretty good. After all of that, I put the new valve seals in and threw all the springs and retainers back in. You could see those valve seals are nice and blue. The other ones are brown. Yeah, I put it all back together. Didn't really record much. You could see they're all seated. I put the rocker arms back in. I didn't set valve lash yet. I'm probably going to do that when it's in the car. Here I am getting the block ready for the head. You could see I'm putting the head studs in right now. I had a few buddies over, and they are kind of just bored, so they helped me screw them in. You can see a bunch of hands on the same thing. Then we got this super sick angle of my shoulder / armpit as they're screwing in the head studs. It's kind of annoying. These are only supposed to be hand tight. You can see I'm just using the Allen wrench to make sure they're fully seated. Not very much more pressure than hand tight. After that, I went ahead and grabbed a rag so I could clean the block surface so it sealed nicely when I put the head gasket as well as the head on. You could see also something I didn't show in the video. I had to drill out those front two dowel pins because that's an LS gasket, and LS gaskets, the dowel pins are in the back instead of the front. So with the LSV thing, if you don't get their special head gasket, I use like a step bit and drill it out to the necessary diameter, I guess. But yeah, here is the head on it. You can see I use a flathead screwdriver, and it just allows me to get all the way down to the actual studs and smear some of that lubricating ARP lube, whatever it's called, just so nothing goes on there dry. It also makes sure that you're getting accurate torque specs when you're torquing everything down. So that's pretty much the real reason. You could see here I'm just screwing the nuts on. I use my pointer finger. I'll like kind of screw it on and it gets hooked on my nail, so then I could line it up pretty easily. It's kind of a weird way to do it, but it gets the job done. I use the impact just to seat them. I don't let it impact at all. I just screw them down. Here you can see I'm torquing it down. The torque specs are 20 something, in between 20 and 80. Usually I'll do like 40 or 60, and then 80 is the final torque spec. For these ARP head studs, I think they have some bigger ones, but these ones, the final torque spec is only 80. After all that's done, I throw the cams in there with a generous amount of assembly lube, just so they don't start up dry. I don't know how long this motor is going to sit, so I want everything to be relatively greased up, if you know what I mean. Then I'm going to go ahead and disappear for a second, go grab those cam caps, and start putting them on. So they're all labeled. There's like I through 5 and E through 5. The outside ones are pretty easy. The middle ones are all the same, so you got to look at the number. They're actually not all the same. They have slight differences, but you get the point. Yeah, they all have arrows. The arrows point to the timing gears. Most of the arrows in the engine point to the timing gears. If you look, there's arrows on the pistons. There's only a certain piston on a Batara build for a D series that doesn't point to it, so something good to keep in mind. You can see I put the cam rails on. I had to buy all brand new hardware for this VTEC head. I don't know, when I bought it, I was unaware that all the bolts were stupid stretched, so kind of bummed me out, but the bolts weren't terrible. Like, they weren't cheap either. It was like 60 something dollars. But at the end of the day, it wasn't that bad. Again, I just used the impact to seat everything down, not to necessarily tighten anything. It just saves some time. Also, you're seeing it's missing a bolt. There's a bolt snapped off in there. I didn't want to play around with the extraction set because half the time it doesn't work. I need to get a nicer one, but that particular 10 millimeter should be fine. If I run into any problems, I'll know what it's from. It should be okay though. I think it would be fine, so I just left it out. Didn't really bother. Here I am torquing down everything. I'm pretty sure the final torque spec on these is 21.5. The first step is like 12.5 or something around there. But yeah. The 10 millimeter bolts are only 7.2 foot-pounds. Do not try to torque them down to 20 because it will destroy them. It'll just break them just like that other one. Here I am getting the pulley on. I guess I'm just running around the shop actually. There's the key in there. The pulley's on there. If you guys have a pretty keen eye, you see that I missed the belt guard. I had to pull it all apart and put it back on after I realized, but kind of annoying. Whatever, stuff happens. But yeah, I'm running a VMS pulley on it. They're not the best for the engines because there's no active dampener, but at the same time it kind of makes it sound like an F1 car of how fast it revs up, just because these are like 95% lighter than stock. So yeah, I think it makes the drivability better, but at the cost of the bearings, I guess. The vibration are pretty bad for the bearings. But here it is all together, and yeah, thanks for watching.